One of the things, like I say, that I learned about myself during the pandemic is the reason why I only have one conservative friend. It came up in an argument. It wasn't political. It was personal. One of my Facebook friends, who is now blocked, and one day on Facebook, I mean, it was kind of an attack. So you only want to talk to people that agree with you or that you agree with. It was like somebody had punched me in the nose because I had never even thought about that before. I never wanted to do anything ever in my life but make art. And having to go to school, and certainly having to have a job and go out in the world and be around people who never understood what I was talking about, and I was just not interested in things that are popular with most people. It's just my nature. I'm interested in what's going on in my head and how am I going to make something out of that in the physical world. I thought about that for a few days and was really kind of freaked out when I realized, no, I don't get into disagreements with my friends for the most part. I mean, people I'm related to, that's different. Those are people, you're vested in them and they're vested in you. And I have some friends that I've known forever that I will stick my neck out and argue with because they're like siblings. And that's different. But just to be social, just to be polite, no. I don't want to have, I don't want to spend time on relationships with people who disagree with me. To turn myself into a person I could live with, I've had to rely quite a lot on my basic values teamed up with instinct. And that's what I trust. It's worked for me. I came out of very unhappy childhood and adolescence, and now I'm one of the happiest people that I know. And it's because I believe of trusting my instincts and being true to my own basic values. So that was my introduction to the fact that I had never even considered before, that I don't have any friends except one with whom I have really fundamental disagreements about how to proceed in society. And learning that helped prepare me for the fact that I really do not understand conservatives. And I'm not talking about somebody like Donald Trump, who's an extreme personality. And I was raised by people with extreme personality. So that's not the hard part for me. The hard part for me is I can't just hate a group of people. There are people that I'm never going to understand, and who are like in the same just had the word in the same circles I'm in, the same areas of interest that I'm in, and I attribute that to personality, different values. Sometimes it's culture, sometimes it's the difference between men and women, And sometimes that really makes a difference. Me trying to understand some man sometimes is really, the male brain and the female brain do have different setups that, for the most part, it's like not that big a deal. But you come to a crisis situation, or you come to a situation where maybe you have to collaborate with a person on a choice, a life choice, a man is going to approach the situation different than a woman is, because our brains are different. But that's like case-to-case basis. It's not like it's a whole group of people that you have to decide whether you love or hate or you want to blow them up. So I came to this point where I realized I absolutely don't understand conservatives. I just how can people think that just as a general rule and act according to a belief system or value system that you and yours are more important than the good of us all? Personally, I don't believe that society could have gotten to the point that it's at if not for sharing, if human beings hadn't learned how to share. Just something as simple as that. When there weren't very many people alive, or you're in some area of the jungle or the forest or the desert, you weren't gonna do very well on your own or with only a couple of other people, especially if those other people were people that you were responsible for the care and feeding of. There needed to be some collaboration. There needed to be enough people that this person is good at that, this person is good at that, this person is good at that, and we're all gonna go do our thing, and then we're gonna come back together, and all of our strengths are going to keep us all alive, or as many of us as can survive alive. That's the liberal brain. I mean, I actually started looking it up because, like I say, I can't just write off a whole bunch of people, a whole group of people, without trying to understand why they're the way they are. Why white supremacists want to have a race war and just mow all the black people down. I have to understand. That's my personality. I have to understand that to continue to hold on to my happiness for the rest of my life. And so I started finding out about all the scientific research that's been done about the difference between the liberal brain and the conservative brain, because I just knew there had to be some physiological differences that have been discovered and documented, because you can get a picture of the brain and you can see how the different areas relate to each other, and what variation there is from individual to individual. And it's like shocking when you see an actual diagram showing, the first time I saw a diagram showing the physical differences that they have found, but it explained a lot why people aren't, if you're a liberal, your conservative relatives, if that person is not generally an asshole, they're not saying stuff just to piss you off. That's the way their brain is set up. And if you're a conservative, your, crazy Aunt Lucy is, well, she's crazy, but she's probably not an asshole. And she can't understand why you can't understand. She's calling you selfish because that's the way she sees it. To help myself understand why people do things like they do in society, I created my own cave. And this is a very simple cave. This isn't like Plato's cave. If I have to keep up with logical arguments, forget it. This is all about observing behavior and probably more coming to emotional terms that I can live with and actually understanding. Like understanding in a way that I could write some great essay, like an amateur anthropologist or something. In my cave, there are Paleolithic people of all different ages and genders who have chosen, whether by circumstances or because they're related or whatever. Some of them probably came into the cave by accident and somehow they managed to find their place in the cave and fit in. But when I'm trying to understand why, and it's very hard for me, I go into the cave. So I want to be able to find a place of comfort for myself inside my head where I can accept the way that conservatives are, why the conservative brain evolved the way it is, and why the liberal brain evolved the way it is, and why that side by side, evolution, development, whatever, because we're all the same species, obviously, all the same subspecies, but why that happened, why it worked, and it's obvious why it causes so much conflict. But I just want to improvise a story with a number of different characters and explore, just sort of try to trace what happened in the cave that caused that divergence and made it possible for us liberals and conservatives, to live with each other and collaborate.